Smith did not invent the free market economy. He discovered it just at the moment in history when these economies were embracing it over serfdom. So we can compare the before and after to see which approach worked. Before 1776, there was literally no economic growth. Estimates by Angus Madison show that between the year 1 and the year 1700, per capita GDP, measured in 1990 dollars, grew from about $444 to $615 in 1700 years, meaning barely any growth in living standards in those 17 centuries. From 1820 to 2000, per capita GDP went from $667 to $5,700. Now let me put this into context. On average, in the free market period, the economy would grow as much in 1 year as it would have grown in the average 200 years in the pre-free market period. Life expectancy literally doubled from the year 1800 to 75 from 35. And then there's transportation. Winston Churchill famously noted that Sir Robert Peel in 1841 took just as long to go from London to Rome as a Roman Empire would have taken to go from Rome to London 2,000 years or earlier. In other words, there was literally no improvement in transportation technology in that 2 millennia. Then, in a little more than a century, we went from horses and sailboats to jet engines and men on the moon. More advancement in a century and a half of free enterprise than in the prior 2,000 years combined. For generations, free markets lowered costs, raised wages, and lifted billions out of poverty. Yet, they are facing major pushback today from the twin threats of socialism and protectionism. That risks turning the wealth of nations into the poverty of the people. How did this happen? The answer, if we're being honest, is that there is a backlash because working people across the Western world have been thoroughly betrayed. Wages lag, housing is out of reach, energy costs soar, opportunities blocked, and the silent thief of inflation has robbed buying power. The state took from the hardworking many to enrich the privileged few. It's not that the government left working people behind, rather, it priced them out and shut them out altogether. Net zero policies drove energy and food costs up and paychecks down, all to fill the pockets of green grifters. Protective monopolies shielded from competition keep prices high. Corporate welfare enriched insiders at taxpayers' expense. Gatekeepers blocked home building, resource development, and infrastructure, shutting workers from jobs and youth from homes. Licensing bureaucracies stopped immigrants from working in their professions, including in our hospitals, while mass migration drove wages down and rental costs up, and social services into the ground. And worst of all, inflationary money printing robbed savings and paychecks from working people while ballooning the assets of connected insiders. That is the inflation tax, the most unjust and immoral tax of all. It takes from those with the least without even a vote in Parliament. The inflation tax is when governments spend what it does not have on what people do not want and then prints money to pay for it, inflating prices. One of the worst, though not the first, was your very own Henry VIII. He used to have his minters melt down British coins and refill the inside with copper while extracting the silver and using it to make yet more coins. He put his face on the front of these very same coins, and when they would rub around inside people's pant pockets, the silver would rub off and his red nose would be exposed. Thus came the nickname Old Copper Nose. And Englishmen would know that their king had robbed them of the purchasing power of their money and of their silver every time they would look at his face with that right red nose. And if anyone wonders whether or not this caused inflation, here's a very simple mathematical reality. Silver content dropped by 75%, and prices rose by 77% during the great debasement of Henry and Edward. Today's debasement has the same effect. An enormous gap between rich and poor has coincided with radical money printing in the Western world. Home ownership, you wonder why young people can't afford homes. Well, it's because the cost has been inflated. The number of dollars in circulation has been growing at 6 times the rate of the number of homes in the market in the United States, Canada, and the UK over the last decade. To be clear, housing costs less today than it did 55 years ago, if your money is gold. In fact, it's gone down by about half, if your money is gold. But if your money is dollars or pounds, it has more than quadrupled in that same time period. So it is not that housing costs are rising, it is that the purchasing power of money is falling. Meanwhile, billionaires leverage newly printed money, which, just like the aristocrats of Henry VIII's time, they touch before it loses its value, to balloon their assets. To be clear, fortunes earned through industry and entrepreneurship should be rewarded and celebrated. But having wealth inflated by government is not the same thing at all. We want people to get rich by making, not taking. Smith warned that when corporate and political power merge, the public loses. When corporations get ahead by having the best lobbyists, not the best product. When those with money turn it into governmental power and then turn that power back into more of other people's money, then the people pay the price. This form of trickle-down economics takes from entrepreneurs, workers, and savers to give to government, which then funnels it through bureaucracy, interest groups, lobbyists, with only drops trickling down to the people at the bottom of the pyramid who paid for it all in the first place. Ironically, those who seek to aggrandize the state tell us that this is all to redistribute wealth, like Robin Hood. Now, the theory was that if the government decided who got what, it would make sure everyone got their fair share, that altruistic authorities would abolish greed altogether. Because while humans operating the marketplace apparently are greedy, but in positions of government power, they are transformed into new and perfected creatures caring only about the well-being of others. But if greed can exist in the market, surely it can thrive in the halls of government power. As Macaulay reminded us, human nature travels everywhere man goes. Wherever you shed the honey, the buzzing flies will crowd. Wherever you fling the carrion, the raven's croak is loud. Wherever down Tiber garbage floats, the greedy pike you see, and wheresoever such lord is found, such client still will be. If man is greedy, he will find a way to get rich by taking what government forces others to pay, just as flies take honey without making any. Whereas in the free market, the greedy man must sell things people choose to buy, much like the bee thrives by exchanging pollen for nectar to make honey and multiply flowers.